Whether you are a Star Wars fan or not, you are definitely acquainted with Stormtroopers. Their shiny white armor and impeccable accuracy have become a symbol of the galaxy far, far away. In today's video, we'll dive into the unknown Stormtrooper's story, learn about his life and service, and thus answer the question, what if you would become a Stormtrooper for one day? Today's hero is Gary, a 16-year-old boy from Lothal. His father is a worker at Lothal mining facility, and as a miner, Gary's father is responsible for extraction of dunium, which was a valuable metal primarily used for starfighter construction. It's 18 BBY, and the Empire is in its prime, which means clone troopers are almost replaced by conscripted soldiers, a lot of Imperial training facilities are being created, and Imperial propaganda is working towards increasing the numbers of conscripted soldiers. Gary is an ambitious guy, so he doesn't want to share his father's destiny and thus asks to become an Imperial cadet. Gary's father fell for the influence of Imperial propaganda and sent him to the Academy for Young Imperials here on Lothal. Lothal's Imperial Academy was one of many one-year junior academies. It was meant for teenagers who wanted to become educated and also dedicate their life serving the Empire. At the end of year, graduates were expected to move on to a senior academy for a longer term, and then the most successful students were allowed to enter a specialized service academy for an officer training with the Imperial Army, Imperial Navy, or the Stormtrooper Corps. During the first 2 weeks, Gary underwent an orientation program which consisted of multiple running exercises and at least one field combat obstacle course. The orientation program was harsh, as its main purpose was designed to weed out the weaker cadets and to ensure that only the strongest and most resilient cadets continued their training. After completing the orientation program, cadets were to pass a series of assessments and challenges for the rest of their term. This included evaluation of physical and mental abilities as well as a test of their leadership and strategic skills. Upon completion of the Junior Academy program, Gary went on to finish his education in Senior Academy, which approximately lasted for 2 years. Well, there is not much information covering Senior Academies in particular, but we might presume that our Gary would dive deeper in military subjects there. By studying military technologies, a variety of weapons, armor, tanks and different battle tactics, Gary would increase his knowledge and understanding of what it is to be a good soldier. After graduation, Gary has 2 options. The first one is to join the Stormtrooper Corps, and the second is to continue further education and become an Imperial officer. In today's episode, we won't be diving into an officer's career, so let's say that Gary is very impatient and he chose to join Stormtroopers right after his graduation. The time has come for Gary to enroll into the army. Apart from the regular Stormtroopers, there were so many Stormtrooper forces assembled to operate in different environments or roles. If we discuss every single role or designation, I think it will be a few hour-long video. So let's give Gary a designation of the most widespread and well-known unit, which is a regular Stormtrooper. Despite being an ordinary military unit, Stormtroopers had decent equipment. They wore a distinctive set of white plastoid armor that was intended to instill fear in the Empire's enemies. Plastoid was an energy-diffusing and impact-resistant material. When the armor was assembled, the 18-piece suit covered the trooper from head to toe in a protective shell. Let's talk about every part of the armor. Let's talk about different parts of the armor. The first one is a black body glove. This flexible garment provides insulation and cushioning while also regulating body temperature during exertion. If a Stormtrooper is injured, it acts as a compression sleeve to stem bleeding. The second part is leg segments. There are 2 segments per each leg. The lower right leg segment contains auxiliary power cells. The lower left segment has a reinforced ridge over the knee area, which protects the exposed knee when a soldier is firing from a kneeling position. The third part is torso section. The chest piece offers the greatest protection from shrapnel, projectiles, flames and corrosives. Hits from blasters and other handheld energy weapons will disperse across the surface area of the armor's plasteel, however close-range impacts will penetrate. Well, as we've seen in the movies, almost every shot is lethal for Stormtroopers, so it is what it is. The chest piece also contained manual controls located on the lower torso section, which allowed the trooper to adjust the environmental regulation of the integrated armor and body glove. Forearm segments are reinforced to intercept vibroblades during close quarters combat. With an optional modification, the gloves can deliver stun shocks. Now, the most interesting part, the helmet. The Stormtrooper helmet is made of the same plastoid composite as the rest of the armor, but it incorporates an inner layer of magnetic shielding. Filters within the helmet screen out chemical and biological contaminants, while heat dispersal vents maintain a consistent temperature. Polarized lenses collect non-visual data for display on the helmet's holographic heads-up display visual. The lenses could adjust for environmental conditions. For example, there is an explosion and the Stormtrooper's eyes are in danger, so the lenses will detect the light and automatically dark the lenses to prevent retinal damage. There was also a threat targeting features for a Stormtrooper helmet, but they were only activated when the helmet was worn by the helmet's designated trooper. This was done to prevent the helmets from being used by Empire's enemies and also reduce the value of the helmets on the black market. There was also a communication device built in a helmet so soldiers could communicate with each other. A wise Jedi once said, "Sometimes the best defense is a swift and decisive offense." So let's talk about weapons. The most widespread gun was the E11 blaster rifle. This rifle was the successor to DC-15A blaster carbine used by clone troopers during the Clone Wars. It was lightweight, reliable and accurate. It also had variable settings that range from single fire to fully automatic. These rifles could shoot a target precisely up to a distance of 300 meters. However, it was best suited for close quarter combats, particularly the narrow confines of enemy installations and also starship corridors. Not only it could kill enemies, there was also a stun mode which allowed stormtroopers to capture a fugitive without hurting him. The rifle featured optical scope with 2x magnification that interfaces with the tactical heads-up display within a stormtrooper's helmet. Some troopers modified their rifle with projectile launcher, including grenades and grappling hook. Stormtroopers were conscripted, so you might wonder, what was their salary? And unfortunately, we don't know. Despite Star Wars being a very old universe, there is no information about details or military contracts. Soldiers were paid for their service, for sure. They were also provided with food and shelter. One of the first conscripts said, "With the Empire I get paid, I get fed, and I have a roof over my head. That's more than the Republic ever did for me." No details about the contracts or payment or anything else. But this phrase gives us an answer on why people from various corners of the galaxy wanted to become soldiers during the reign of the Empire. Living a poor life, one could make it better knowing that he would receive payment, food and shelter, despite having to risk his own life for it. So did our Gary, and let's hope that he will crush the rebellion, bring order to the Empire, and return home safely with a decent retirement bonus.